should we be excited for the fact that Nvidia is actually getting strong demand? Because that was a very core question.
Yes.
Why? Lay out the case. Why is AIP going to benefit from Nvidia getting strong demand? What's the
because AIP allows you to actually privatize and securely privatize your large language models and the information and control who has access, who can actually run the large language models, what access do you have of that data. The beauty of Palantir that people overlook is it was built on a platform and a principle of secure first. Everything was built on how do we control that if Amit only does this job, he only has access to this stuff, and he can't go anywhere else, right? It's zero trust security. And they were doing that years ago. And so with these large language models and copyright infringement and all these different things you're seeing about AI now, people want to protect their data. Yeah. And if you're going to use my data, you're going to have to pay me for it. Well, AI.
Why does Nvidia's demand mean that Palantir has a bigger market to sell AIP into?
Because it's validating that people want to use AI to drive business results. And so if you want to do that now, okay, so what? You have all these GPUs. Do you know how to use the large language models? Do you even know what your goals are with these large language? You have all the data, you have all the statistics. Do you even know what to do with that? That's where Palantir and a forward deployed engineer can help you understand of what is the real problem you're trying to solve. Well, Arnie is a CEO of a digital communications company, and he is trying to grow his business by 2x by the end of the year. And he wants to get into multinational different countries, and he's having trouble acquiring, new customers, right? That's a problem. How do we figure that out? What countries is he having success in? How can we then use that data to then replicate that, right? What if he makes some different decisions and builds out an office in France, and we do a digital twin mock-up of his business, and we say, okay, what if we did this? We don't have to make those actual physical decisions. We can try that out first in this digital twin ontology.
Right.
This example goes really well in logistics. When you look at trucking companies and supply chain, Palantir really thrives when you look at the predictive analytics of, like retail. What products are selling? What should we be stocking the floor with? What should we get?
So as an Nvidia shareholder, your argument for this massive earnings beat is that it means that Jensen Huang on the earnings call, when he talks about every organization in the world realizes that generative AI is going to increase their revenue per employee and make them more productive.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
None of that matters unless the LLMs have something like an AIP to be implemented. But Nvidia having the demand proves Palantir has a market to even sell AIP.
Exactly. And the most exciting piece for me, other than the numbers, they were good. They weren't like breathtaking. But out of the Palantir earnings was, I don't know if you guys caught on the key statement when Alex said, for the first time ever, we are getting requests from the IT infrastructure department. This is the department that I work and sell to every day. The people who hold the keys to the kingdom for the data center, for the networking, for the cloud spend. Well, normally they weren't going to Palantir because they didn't know what Palantir was. They didn't know what they needed it for. But all of a sudden, ChatGPT comes on and people are seeing AI can actually make life easier and more automated and better results. And so what do? You see a whole bunch of executives saying, hey, IT department, you better figure out how to get this generative AI stuff going. We need it because everyone else is doing it. Everyone's talking about it. And I want an AI strategy for next year. And so the fact that they're now getting to that buyer, that influencer within the organization, now it's just a matter of getting hands on keyboard and start finding little use cases to show them, hey, this will work.
So I believe we can summarize all this topic with, it's not that the revenues beat from Nvidia directly benefit Palantir, but we can infer that if Nvidia is selling a lot and have a very strong expectation, we have a validation that when Karp says we have unprecedented demand, is not Karp just being an egomaniac, but there is an actual proof that what he's saying is actually matching with what other players are showing. So for us, at least from what I see, is a very strong validation that, okay, there are conditions emerging that give me confidence that the growth that have been quite bad is actually set to change, shift. And I think it's very, very different from what we saw last year. You remember when Apollo was launched, inside the community, we were super excited. Oh, Apollo is groundbreaking. And I think they also believe Apollo is groundbreaking. But it seems so far that Apollo was one of those products that was too ahead to be actually appreciated at scale. While here, we have a product that is ahead compared with what other players are maybe doing, but is not that ahead, is matching what the current the customers currently want, so that it is understood. So the difference I see from a non-technical guy perspective is Apollo is a groundbreaking product. Probably it will make Palantir evolve and grow a lot in 5-10 years, when companies will realize, holy shish, we actually to deploy the huge amount of mass of AI models, edge systems, I actually need Apollo. But that moment that with Apollo will arrive in 5-10 years, with AAP, we are already there, because they dropped a new product that seems to perfectly match the demand. And actually, this is a risk Carpe mentioned 2 years ago, or even 3 years ago, that by building products ahead of the demand, there is the risk that if we drop a product and the demand is not there yet, basically we lose an opportunity. But now, at least my perspective is they drop the product maybe later, but when there is a validation that that product actually is needed. It's more like an Apple strategy rather than, okay, let's build an unfolding phone and hope it goes. Like Apollo was more like that. Maybe the idea is actually even good, but not in the case of a foldable phone, but maybe it could even work. And that was more Apollo. While now I see more, okay, there is clearly demand for watches. Let's drop a watch. What do you think with this?
I would agree to some of that for sure. What I'll say about Apollo is, and you're right, it's ahead of its time. A lot of companies can actually already use it though, and what it does and how it gets applications updated in the most remote places and how it uses edge technology. In fact, Apollo is what makes FedStart possible. But the buyer and the influencer and the decider in that conversation is the developer. And I can tell you firsthand, because we sell products to developers. Developers are the most coveted group within an organization. They're like protected. They're like the guy at the bottom of the basement in the office space, my stapler guy. Like they are like, you can't find them, right? Like they don't want you talking to their developers, because the developers do want all the coolest tools. They want to be able to get their applications out as fast as possible, which Apollo definitely helps out with. It's a much harder sell. It's a much more technical and complicated sell, whereas AIP is easier to grasp. It's also at the right time where the hype is there and people want to know more about it. And it's easier to get to the infrastructure team who actually cares about this, because they're being instructed to find out what to do with AI. And I don't know if you guys saw on LinkedIn, Palantir had an AIP Midwest conference, like a small get together of getting customers on how to use AIP. So Molson Coors was there. Because a couple other big businesses were there, and they were at a restaurant and they were talking about using AIP within their businesses and to get their hands on the product. So you could see these like mini little events that they're now doing while the iron is hot. And so Apollo is definitely a more complicated sell, and it's a different buyer.
Well, the thought I had while you were saying this is could be that the spike in demand for having FedRAMP is something that actually triggers the demand for Apollo. In the similar way that the demand for generative AI, so LLM, into your business is actually what is triggering the need for an ontology, because also, as the code disrupt said, if you you want to run an LLM and you don't have a semantic layer that makes you say that, okay, this is not just column A. This column A actually means something. Without that meaning, basically, you have algos that gives you answers that are completely detached from the reality.